what does she say to people who are concerned that her $55 million public interest journalism fund, which includes numerous criteria for media to adhere to, is influencing the editorial decisions of media outlets in New Zealand?
Mr. Speaker, I would absolutely reject that. But, Mr. Speaker, better yet, I would put the question to the media and ask whether they agree with that sentiment.
David Seymour.
What then would happen to a media outlet that received money under the fund and wanted to report a story deemed inconsistent with the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, which is one of the requirements to adhere to?
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I absolutely reject the idea that there is political influence in broadcasting and media.
David Seymour.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
A point of order, David Seymour.
Mr. Speaker, the question was what would happen. I don't think that's been addressed other than a very generic comment about media. This was a question about what the conditions are under this fund and how it operates, and we didn't hear that addressed at all other than a bland generic statement.
Well, the member might regard it as a bland generic statement, but I think it answered the question.
Apologies on that. I mean, you touched on part of this, on the part of this question in your answer, but I just ask it anyway. And it was around the kind of the anxiety, because you mentioned earlier that hate speech and its connection with people's sense of loss and loss of identity, or their perceived sense of loss, and how one can manage that process in terms of reducing that sense of loss of whatever it might be.
Yes. Can I think it's a really important question, and I want to address it in a very specific way, and that is that I'm Pākehā. So, you know, we've had our hegemony for a very long time. It feels very uncomfortable to be challenged in certain ways, and to feel that somehow we are not going to be able to maintain our hegemony. Sorry, perhaps this is a better word, but our hegemony. So how is it that we have a discussion in which we can talk to Pākehā, with Pākehā, about how being Pākehā, what that means in a 21st century New Zealand in which te tiriti plays a more fundamental role? I'm an optimist. I would like to think that we can have that discussion by saying these are the things that you can gain. You're not losing anything, you're gaining something. Now that might be very Pollyannish, but it's how you frame it. And I think we've got some wonderful people. I mean, Moana Jackson has been one of the speakers in the series. And, you know, having heard Moana on many occasions, I think that he and others are able to discuss very difficult issues in ways that are not undermining, which are affirming, even to Pākehā who need to change and might need to give up some of the things that they feel very some of the things they hold very important. So I think one of the key challenges for us in this area is to say, what is going to be the language, who's going to articulate it, and how do we have that discussion in a way that engages Pākehā, doesn't push them out to the boundaries or push them away from the discussion. And I think that's one of the most profound things that we could do in a tiriti-based future discussion.
Thank you.
What's it all about?